We are in Tzidkas Hatzadik Yud Gimel, and here we said Hazman Murkav Miyoim V'Layla. That time, as we're all familiar with the words, time is one of the creations of Hashem. It's not just a way of measuring the creation of Hashem. Zman is a actual bria of Hashem, and created during the Sheish Simei Breishis, Vayihar, Vayiboker, Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, which to my knowledge, am I right, Chaim, we don't use Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the Torah anywhere, right?
There's
Chodesh HaRishon, there's Machras HaShabbos, it's interesting, Sheish Simei Breishis, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which is a chuk in the Bria. Somebody said last week there's been attempts to make an 8-day week or a 6-day week, but there's a 7-day week. That's the everybody or Makabel 7-day week. So Zman is Murkav. If we analyze the ingredients of Zman, it's Murkav. It's an interconnectivity, or Murkav is even deeper than an interconnectivity. Murkav means a homogenation of Yom V'Layla, meaning that you can't, it's all one piece. Kain Chaye Ha'adam, and so too is life. So therefore life is a mixture of Yom V'Layla, or V'Choshech, Ola V'Yored. It's or Choshech, ups, downs. Now, I said last week, I made a statement that it seems to me like the darkness and light are mixed together. In other words, we all say we have our ups and downs. That's not a big chiddush, but it's mashma that it's all one thing. Rabbi Chaim questioned me on this last week, and truth is, I'm not 100% sure I'm right about that. But what I am, that it's, I'm not sure, like, if I can even conceive of light and darkness being mixed together. I don't know what that means even. And from a scientist's point of view, not that I'm a scientist, but from a scientific point of view, light can only go where there's darkness. In other words, darkness, like there's darkness and then there's light, so it's hard to understand what a mixture means. But for our purposes, Kain Chaye Adam or V'Choshech, our lives are full, perforce, by creation, our lives are full of light and darkness, of Aliyah and Yerida Kayadua, as is known, Maimer HaBaal Shem, the Maimer of the Baal Shem Tov, Zayda, Al Pasuk Hisheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kom. That we all know that's not the Baal Shem Tov, that's a Pasuk in Mishlei. Pasuk in Mishlei says that Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kom, that the way it will happen in every Tzadik's life is Sheva Yipol, he will have 7 Yeridos or Nefilos before he will have a Kima. Down 7 times, up. Now that's not talking about, I don't think, it's talking about becoming a Tzadik. I think that's talking about Tzadik. Sheva Yipol Tzadik become. The tzaddik is the one who's falling. Am I correct? The tzaddik is the one who's falling and getting up. So what are these 7 nefilos? What are they? Ki shiva yamim, says the Baal Shem Tov, ki shiva yamim hu shavua echad, that sheva yipol is not an accidental number. It happens to be that it'll have 7 nefilos, but they're connected the shivas yamei hashavua, the 7 days of the week. And then it goes around in a circle again. So what it means is that every day, every tkufa of a tzaddik, and I want to be Meir in this in a minute, but every tkufa of a tzaddik is connected one of the 7 days of the week. What are we getting from this Baal Shem Tov? What is it? What's the? What he's saying is that it's the bria, the shavua is the bria. We're talking about nothing less. We're not talking about an aspect of science or a footnote in history. We're talking about the bria. The bria is a bria of shiva yamim, and in order for a tzaddik to be a tzaddik, this is what the Baal Shem Tov says. Actually, looked it up. In order to be the tzaddik that the Baal Shem Tov, that Shlomo HaMelech was talking about in Mishlei, we're talking about Sheva Yipol Tzaddik to come. He needs to go through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the different brios of every day of the week. He has to go through until V'Kom, Shabbos.
What does it mean, go through?
Vayera, vayiboker. That's what it means. It means it goes up, it goes down. In other words, life is not a constant travel up. There's always setbacks in life. Now, I just want to say, I think after you left, I said that the Gemara says in Avodah Zarah Daf Ches, and I was thinking about this. The Gemara says that Yom Shenivra by Adam Harishon, the day that Adam Harishon was created, which was what day of the week? Friday. So on Friday, Friday 1, first Friday, so he was new in the world. It was his birthday, right? He was new in the world. You don't know what to expect in the world if you're new in the world. So Kivan Shishaka Lav Chama, the Gemara says, so the sun started to set. Now we see this every night. We admire it. We take pictures of it. But imagine Adam Harishon. Put yourself in his place. He's in Gan Eden, nothing less than Gan Eden, and the sun's starting to set. Amar, and he said, Oy li shema bishvil shesarachti. This must be because I did an avera. Olam choshach ba'adi. The world is going into darkness. V'chozer l'tohu v'avohu. And it's going to go back to null and void. So a natural kind of reaction to the first sunset. Interesting how that became one of the most beautiful things in life. Isn't that interesting? But it's nicer than a sunrise, or at least it's experienced more than a sunrise. But a sunset is like, but Adam Harishon was terrified. V'zuhi misa sheniknasa alai min hashamayim, and this is the death penalty that Hashem gave me. So he let go of the fruits of Gan Eden. He didn't eat anything. Ubocha kol halayla, he was crying all night. V'chava bocha kenegto, and Chava was crying next to him. So here you have Adam and Chava, the very first night, right after the chasana, and they're up all night crying. Kimin shalom uda shachar, and then the sun started to come up. So the Gemara Amar, so Adam Harishon said, Min hagai shel olam hu. Oh, okay, it's just nature. This Gemara is a pella. If you feel like things are going terrible for you because you did some kind of an avera, it's such a fundamental avera, and you cry all night and you do tshuva all night and you worry about it all night, and then the sun rises, you say, okay, Hashem did it, He forgave me. What's the pshat? You know, it's like the famous story of the parking spot for Chuli. What? I mean, Minhagei Shalaylam, all of a sudden, what do you become, an Apakaris? Minhagei Shalaylam? I mean, what's the Minhagei Shalaylam? I don't mean Apakaris because he held the Minhagei Shalaylam, but Apakaris that he didn't realize that, I thought Hashem was punishing me? No. So, I looked around in the Mefarshim to try to understand. The main Mefarshim on the daf don't explain this at all. Why would he say Minhagei Shalaylam hu? So finally I found the Ramdu, Moshe David Valley from the Ramchal, Torah Ramchal, that he said that's because tshuva wasn't invented yet. Until Cain killed Hevel, there was no inyan of tshuva that Adam Harishon knew about, which is not so pashut according to everybody, but some say there was no inyan of tshuva per se. Chatasi avisi pashati. So what was he crying? He was crying avelus. He was crying tsar. He was crying that he couldn't find that the world was coming to an end. But he wasn't crying in a tshuvadik way. And Mamela, he didn't come along and say my tshuva was accepted. But I think, if I'm permitted to say, that the pshat, according to what we're learning here, is much deeper than that. I think. I mean, if I'm permitted to say, the pshat in Minhagei Shalaylam hu is that his original understanding of life and the world was its kulayar. It's just one stream of light. Then he saw the sun going down. He says, is this the end? No. Maybe this is the end of the whole thing. The stream of light is over. Then he saw the sun going up again, and he said, that life is full of sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset. Life is full of up and down. So when the Adam Harishon was saying a deeper thing, according to the way I'm understanding it, the Minhagei Shalaylam, he understood something, he had an insight into the world, and the insight into the world was Minhagei Shalaylam, that Vayir Vayiboker is a chelik of life. Yes, Makabel? I think it's the Amos Pshat in the Gemara. So, let's just do a little further of Tzadok. V'amnam, it's important to note, the Gam be'es ha'choshech, that even during the time of choshech, nighttime, sarach or halavana or kechavim. It's not pitch black at night. There's a moon, there's stars. So here you have, on the one hand, the sun went down. On the other hand, all of a sudden, there's stars. Dinami orhu, and the Gemara says at the beginning of Psachim, that those stars are called or. And we've spoken about this, that as opposed to the moon, the light of the moon is a reflective light. The light of stars is an light. That is light that's coming in the dark, like little suns. They don't give off much light, but they do. There's some or even belayla. Kedisa reish Psachim beizam at aleph. So Hashem doesn't forsake us completely. He gives us little twinkling stars along the way. When you're sitting at home at night, you light a candle, turn on the lights. So, mitzvah v'or Torah, shemesh u'magen Hashem, zeu Torah l'shem shemayim, that the spiritual part of turning on the lights, the spiritual way to turn on the lights is by learning Torah l'shma, the behirus hakaris shem shemayim. So I want to point out that all these brackets were put in afterwards by Reb Tzadok, and almost all of them are referring to the importance of limud Torah.
Referring to what?
The importance of learning Torah. V'zehu v'oyav of kitzeis hashemosh matzdik arabim kakechavim shlemden Torah nigla l'rabim. In other words, put in my words, that through the whole darkness of the night, or the whole darkness of Galus, there's always the little spots of light, which are called Bavel, Talmud Bavli, Talmud Yerushalmi, Vilna, Volozhin, Belz, Ger. These are little spots of stars. The way to look at these places are like stars in the night. They're stars in the night. Uperish beveisai sarachar haner bechadre levavai. Beisai is your personal home deep inside. That's your home. Or haner yafa lebedika. And the or haner is yafa lebedika. So this is an amazing thing. I just want to talk about this for a second. That when you do bedikas chametz, this is what the Gemara talks about, Psachim. When you do bedikas chametz, so what's the object of the story here? You're looking for chametz. You're trying to find chametz. That's the purpose of bedikas chametz. So, last night I was walking home after Marv, and there was a guy with his trunk open with the flashlight of his cell phone, looking for something. So, okay, I always want to help. So I said, "What are you looking for?" So he said that the cap from the thing you put the water in, the blue cap. So the blue cap fell someplace into the engine. And he's looking for it because it can turn on the engine. It might make a bell now. So he's looking, not finding it. So I said, let me ask you a question. Why don't you just look in the morning? So he said, that is a good idea. Closed the trunk and he went home and I went home. So okay. Just sharing my brilliant eitzah. So the question is, why don't we check for chametz in the morning? Like, you wait till it's night. It's got to be good at night. And if you're a brisker, you're waiting till 10 o'clock at night. And you're taking out not even your flashlight. You need a kula for a Moshe. You're taking out a candle. Not an avuka. Avuka is not kosher. You're not even taking a bright light. You're not turning on the light. So why don't you just wait for the morning? If you're looking for chametz, why don't you wait for the morning? So somehow or another, there is this, I guess even physically, there's this idea of being able to see something better at the dark with a light. There is some type of a focus. I'm not an expert, but it seems to be. What I do understand, though, is that sometimes in life you can see more during times of darkness than you can see during times of light. And as qualified or not, as somebody who listens to a lot of people's problems, it's almost it's astounding and almost frightening what people are megala when they're in a very low place. There's a certain truth that they see, which could, God forbid, lead to suicide. Is that always good to see the truth? But it becomes like a hallucinogenic drug, where you could see a certain MS, and that could be bad. But somehow or another, it's so interesting that the place that you look for chametz is during darkness with a little light.
So like it's better to go to a Beit Avelis.
I can't hear you.
Like it's better to go to a Beit Avelis and then.
Okay, beautiful, so to speak. Yeah. Tov l'lechas l'beis ha'avel.
We see in the parsha this week for the donkey Sodom and Ezekiel, and Rashi said that if a human will see them, they'll completely lose his mind. Because an emes if they're there, but a human can't handle it.
That's right. I always make this point: if everybody right now would have a pair of glasses to see all the cell waves and microwaves and television rays and who knows what rays are going through this building right now, we would all go Meshiga. Thank God, like it's a bracha we don't see. So it's an interesting thing that when you're looking for chametz, you're looking for the arch enemy number one, chametz, and you're looking only during darkness and only with a small light. That's b'diavad, achsadra. There's all the different b'diavats. V'hinei or Hashemesh mitaher zman hayoim v'hashlomas hatara kasher erev shimsha k'deisa brachas. Now we'll go back to the Kohen who's eating truma. So he gets night and then the morning, right? At night he could eat truma. When Shkia goes to the mikvah, Shkia eats truma. Then in the morning he goes to the mikvah. Or Hashemesh mitaher, in the morning he becomes tar rather. Hinei or Hashemesh mitaher zman hayoim. The or Hashemesh comes in his mitaher, the zman hayoim. Hashlomas hatara kasher yorev shimsha, v'hashlomas hatara kasher yorev shimsha, k'disa brachas to lulei niter lo yorev adayin. V'chol kamet lo yorev adayin tzarech hoyser zman tara, ayidei or hashemesh u'mishtadel b'tarasa. I'm going to explain, but something occurred to me today. I just want to share it for a minute. I wrote down. Maybe you're familiar with the gra in the Sefer Ditzniusa, which this originally appears in the Ramban, the Chachmei Hasoid. The Mekubalim have said, tradition, that the 6 days of the week are keneged the 6,000 years of the world. Shis alfi shnin havi ha'olam. The world is 6,000 years. We're 5,000, what are we, 782. So we're almost at 6,000, if we're counting correctly. But the whole operation of the world, says the Gemara, is 6,000 years, and then comes Shabbos. Shabbos is Yemais HaMashiach. So it's kind of like a deadline for Mashiach, the year 6,000. The Vilna Gaon that these 6 days of the week, and this takes us back to the Baal Shem Tov, but these 6 days of the week and then Shabbos comes back to the Sheishes Yimei HaBreishis. So first millennia is Sunday, second millennia Monday, means that right now we are in Friday afternoon. The same place where Adam Rishon was Friday afternoon, Erev Shabbos, Kodesh. And the Vilna Gaon told his Talmidim that they should pay attention to this because it doesn't only go with the days of the week. It's a chiddush. Yeah? It doesn't only go with the days of the week. So right now we're in Friday. This whole it's called the sixth millennium. But it goes even by the hour of the days of the week. So we need to know what happened at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And the Gemara is Meirich on this with Adam Rishon. But the Vilna Gaon says you can know exactly what took place in history based on the hour of the Yom. So in other words, you look at the Bria of Yom Hashishi, you break it down to hours, and you'll know where we are in history. And B'ita Achishena. So this is why let's say 1840. This is why, which would be 5,600. This is why the Talmidei Agro came to Eretz Yisrael, because the Vilna Gaon said further that Ha'iruyim shel ha'elef yeh bechetzi hasheni, that the amazing things that are going to happen in the world throughout history are always in the second half of the millennium. And this was 5600. So just after the Gra, he told them, time to go to Eretz Yisrael. Go to Eretz Yisrael, it's the Zman Mashiach. Before there was any politics, there was Talmidei Agra. The reason why the Bali Tosfos came was a different story. I can talk about that also, but maybe on Tisha B'Av. But that's why they came, and they knew amongst themselves that this was the time. Sometime now is the time of Kibbutz Goliath, and according to the clock, sometimes now is the time to go to Eretz Yisrael, which is going to lead to all the different things that the Gra will happen in the Seder Advarim, a little bit different than the Rambam, to the Bias HaMashiach. And here we are a couple hundred years later, and look what we're seeing. The Kolator predicted, believe it or not, that according to the Gra, 1948 will be a major year. Now, do you believe? We're here, right? Now, to be sure, I just want to explain something here while I'm here. Like, nobody argues with the Gra. I mean, it's not like, the Satmar Rebbe argued with the Gra, necessarily. But the pshat is that from the other point of view, from another side of the factor is that whenever there's a possibility of a huge happening, there's also a huge koach hatumah. And the question is whether this huge happening was koach hakadusha, koach hatumah. I prefer to believe it's a koach hakadusha. And hence you have the Gra, the way Volozhin explained it, the way Netziv explained it, the way Rav Kook explained it. That's a line of thinking, which we have to say is somehow coming true right in front of our eyes. This is not something we're looking into the future, not even looking in the past. Now, but okay. So the Gra asks, according to Talmidim, the following question. Listen to this kasha. If every major thing happens during the day, what does that mean? The second half of the millennia. Why? Says the Vilna Gaon. Why does everything happen in the second half of the millennia? Because it says, Vayihi Erev, Vayihi Boker, goes back to our limud, and Iker Brias Ha'olam Haya B'Yoyim V'Loi B'Layla. Did you know that? Brias Ha'olam, Vayihi Erev, Vayihi Boker, but the actual Brias Ha'olam was during the day, not at night. One for sure I know. Obviously it happened during the day. So if the Bria, but it's Chazal. Chazal say that the Bria Ha'olam happened at night. So what's the whole Erev for, says the Gra, which is why I'm telling you this right now. But if the whole Bria happened at night, so what's the morning for? Ki ha'heder tzarich lahaktim ha'havaya. Lashon of the Gra. Lashon of the Gra, Safra Ditzniusa, Parakeh, Dafe. Because there has to be void before there's existence. Meaning you need Vahi Erev before you have Vahi Boker. I mean, you have to have darkness before you have light. So it's the Havaya of the Bria. Havaya means existence. Havaya of the Bria is going to be Bayom V'lo B'layla. But this whole Gra, I'm telling you just to say this sentence here, but Heder Haheder tzorech lahaktim ha'avaya, but there has to be heder, which means void. There has to be a void before there's light, before there's existence. Anybody know why?
You have a key to put stuff in, I guess.
Clean off your desk. I was thinking when I saw this gra years ago. I was thinking just hashkacha pratis. I was putting together something, and I was looking at the gra, and I was helping my kids with something. I saw the gra, and on the bottle of glue it said, "Clean surface well before applying." So I got it. That was a malach, came and told me the pshat. Okay, so the pashtus, how deep this goes, because Rabbi Yochanan stood on the banks of the river when the Rabbi Yochanan the Amir, when the Talmidei Chacham were coming from Bavel back to Eretz Yisrael, and he was telling them, forget about Teres Bavel, you're in a new place, forget about Teres Bavel, Talmud Bavli. That means all, that was the Gemara's Teres Shabbat Pez, we knew it. What do you mean to forget about Teres Bavel? The answer is that when you're coming something new now. You're coming to Eretz Yisrael, just lose it, and we always make this point that we mess ourselves up with preconceived notions, with preconceived personality traits. We're coming into every situation unfresh. So on the one hand, you don't want to lose your experience in life and your knowledge in life and all that, but at the same time, when you come into an experience, vayi erev, vayi boiker. So you have to have the void. Heder, tzarech lahaktim es havaya. The heder has to come before havaya. So here's the gross question. Back to the gross question. One of the most difficult things that happened in Jewish history was the expulsion from Spain and Portugal. So that, as we all know, 1492, an easy date to remember, same time that Columbus discovered America somehow, and that was that took place. I mean, that was something in the making for decades, and the government, the Spanish government, Ferdinand married Isabella, and they were very, very frum, and decided that everybody in Spain and Portugal and all the places, that there was 4 places that they were controlling, that have to be Christian and believe, because ubiarta arami kirbecha lahavdil elef havdalas, and they gave the Jews the chance to accept Christianity. Some did outwardly, some did inwardly. Some were killed, many were killed, and then came finally the deadline of the Spanish and Portuguese expulsion 4 years later, which was on Tisha B'Av, by the way, where you have to leave. You can't take your property with you. You can't take anything with you. Just get the heck out of here. And it was at that time that the Jews were welcomed most by the Ottoman Empire. Everything is ironic. By the Bnei Yishmael. And by the way, the reason why we were welcomed by Bnei Yishmael, what happened there? And we went to North Africa, and we went to Turkey. My grandparents from Turkey. I mean, Gedolim in Turkey, Baruch Hashem. That's the Golos, the Lakewood of the time, if you will, was in Spain. That's where the center of Klal Yisrael was. That's where the learning came from. That's where the Gutenberg Press was in 1440. So that's where printing started to happen. There was a renaissance of Jewish life and Jewish learning and Torah, and that renaissance moved. We don't have numbers from, by the way, the Spanish, how many people had to leave. But what the Gedolim said, there was about 300,000 Jews had to move. Another 150,000 Jews were killed, and a countless amount converted. And then there were even, some moved to Amsterdam, and some moved to Germany because we had a Psikesh in Germany. But most of us became Sfaradim. So the reason we became Sfaradim is because we came from Spain to Sfarad. So in Morocco are Sfaradim, and Algeria is Sfaradim, and Turkey is Sfaradim. So it's as opposed to, let's say, Taimanim. Okay, so this is not a history class, but it's interesting anyway. But what's fascinating for our limud is all this happened Tisha B'Av 1492. So for Esther Gra, like, why isn't this? Why didn't this happen in the second half of the millennium? Gra asked the question: why did this happen in the second half of the millennium? It would have been it would have been more appropriate somehow. I did that little piece of paper. Oh, shkoyach.
Because he's saying because big things only happen in the boker.
Yeah.
Why is that not a cleaning off of the?
Oh,
slate?
says the Gra that vayhi'era vayhiboker. That okay. So it happened in the night, and the Gra makes the cheshbon according to Talmidei Gra. The Gra makes the cheshbon that if you look at 49, if you look at 1492, which is also easy to remember, it's 52:52, right? So, Ben. Right? if you look at 52:52 and you figure out the hours, it comes out exactly at chatzos halayla.
It's crazy.
It's chilling. Exactly at chatzos halayla. You could do the cheshbon, you could do the math. And says the Gra, what is chatzos halayla? Chatzos halayla is the most special time because it's the darkest time, but that's where the switch, that's where it toggles to becoming more light. So, dark, and we see this in halacha, brachos. Kriya Shema chatzos, hadalei shachar. There's two different zmanim. So the chatzos, the significance of chatzos in Jewish law is that that's the end of the increasing darkness that happens, until it turns light. Now, we've all been up at chatzos. It's hard to see this. Always a pellet to me that tzaddikim, since the Churban Beis Hamikdash, have been taking tikkun chatzos because of the specialness of chatzos. What's the pella? The pella is that you could see when Netzach Hamas, you can see when Alois HaShachar is, you can see when Shkiyas HaChamas, you can see when Tzeitzak HaChavim is. You can see how in the world do you see when Chatzos is? You don't look at your sundial. It's the Chamit Nacht. So, okay, so you have a harp in your wind. So David HaMelech, is a raya to my kasha. David HaMelech had a harp, and there was a ruach noshavas that blew through it, and his harp started to play, Uri Shir Daberi, at exactly chatzos, and he got up and he said tikkun chatzos. But how do we know when tikkun chatzos is? And I can only imagine to say that tikkun chatzos for tzaddikim. Today you look at Jewish, what's it called? My Times, My Zmanim. Know exactly what chatzos is, and then you set your phone and it wakes you up and you say tikkun chatzos if you were so inclined. But huh?
Can you see chatzot during the day?
Yeah, the sun is exactly over. What time? You don't have a watch. How's the time? How are you keeping cheshbon?
Can they use sand
24
timers?
hours left.
Okay, so I leave this to your speculation. But my theory is that if you are very, very sensitive spiritually and sensitive to the bria around you, you could see that the darkness is finished and light has begun. And even if you can't see it physically, you could feel it metaphysically. You could say this is the darkest before it's not the darkest before the dawn. This is the darkness of chatzos. There's a certain kind of a choshech at chatzos, which is a switch, and I believe a very, very sensitive person, l'chayra, is able to know this. The Vilna Gaon said tikkun chatzos. Something without the harp. So like it was on a higher, but so Micah Mashmalon, what you see from here is that the Vayhi'er Vayiboker of the Brias Ha'olam not only is Koveya all of history, not only is it Koveya not only is it koveya hour by hour, like the Zmanim, and you can watch this through Shemona Esrei, as I pointed out, you can see, not only is it koveya like where we're holding on the timeline of history, but the Agavurcha Chidush Kamashmalan, that Vayer Vayiboker is the void, the heder, which comes before the Havaya, which is the Metzias, and it's actually a part of the Bria. In other words, like what's important here is it's not like there's no Bria now that we're making a Bria. So there's the void before the Bria means that this is part of the Bria, and this is the Vilna Gaon's answer. And you know what, that just look at the history. This the Vilna Gaon doesn't say, but you know, right after the tragedy of the Holocaust was a different kind of a tragedy, horrible. I mean, everything is different, but the tragedy of losing the centers of Torah and losing families and losing all their gashmis, everything they had, the tragedy almost immediately brought to things that we never had before. For instance, 1530 or something like that was the Maharal and the Arizal. The Maharal and the Arizal were contemporaries. And others, they were contemporaries. They never met each other, they never heard of each other probably, and they never saw each other's works, but they were contemporaries, almost exactly at the same time, and they both did the same thing. They were both Megala Sod, in two different languages, meaning two different types of languages. The Maharal is talking in a more philosophical way, and the Arizal is telling us in a more Kabbalistic way about the seven spheres, which the Maharal talks about. It's a different kind of a language that I once said to my Rebbe, Rav Shiur, I said, how come we don't learn Maharal more? And he said, who doesn't learn Maharal? Okay, so I started learning Maharal. But fascinating that it was decided almost for the first time in history that there has to be, independently decided, like Min HaShamayim, the Arizal, the Maharal, that there has to be a Gilui side. All of a sudden, everyone has to know this. Why? Because life lost its understanding, life lost its meaning, life lost its spirituality. We were in Gullus. We needed to explain this Gullus. They needed to explain this Gullus to the people. And by the way, you'll find this true in Kabbalistic works, etc., throughout history, that there had to be this Gilui Or. But the Gilui Or comes, the Havaya of Gilui Or comes after the Choshech. So the real morning has broken was in 1740. But you see, that's when the second half of the millennium began. But I want you to appreciate the math that I did for you. But it's 1740, and there's a lot to say about it. But what we're talking about is, look at the or that came out of the Choshech, how it started to build, which is the Vayihi Erev Vayiboker. There's a void. The Gutenberg press, amazingly, was first used in 1444. To much controversy, by the way. It was like, press, like until then things were just written. So what was a controversy, which we understand completely, same as the internet. Like, what are people going to use this for? And indeed, it was designed by Gutenberg, I believe, for pornography. There's a way of spreading around pictures. You don't have to go hire an artist. I would imagine the Gedolim of the time answered it. Okay, now, where would we be? Now today I walk once a week into the printers, the big printers. I feel like I'm walking to a Makam Kaddish. All of Torah comes from these places. But okay, but this is HaKadosh Baruch Hu being makdim refuah lamaka, that here's a way, and the Maharal wrote, look, all this far, we don't even have them all. And the Maharal, by the way, released his first sefer when he was 63 years old. Arizal died young. He was 63 years old. He released his first sefer. He had Arichas Yom. But it's just amazing the amount of light that came from the darkness. But Lorak said there was a chazara to Eretz Yisrael when we fled Spain and Portugal. So one of the places that we went was Eretz Yisrael. It was hard to go there. It was desolate, but it was the Ottoman Empire. We went to Eretz Yisrael, went to Tzfas, and the whole Kehillah of Tzfas. So we go to Tzfas and we say, okay, the Arizal, the Beis Yosef. No, look what was going on over there. Beis Yosef was the Shulchan Aruch. The Arizal was the Gilui of the Arizal. The Alshich was the what was going on. The Ramak, what was going on in Tzfas was a rebuilding, a rebuilding of the whole Klal Yisrael. And Ad Kedei Kach, they wanted to make a Chiddush HaSmicha and a Chiddush of the Sanhedrin. And really, if you look at the history carefully at that time, they wanted to create what we would call today a Medinat Yisrael, for a place for the Jews to come, because the Arizal and the Beis Yosef, and they understood that there has to be. And I'll tell you something that I saw from the, I believe, a letter from the Netziv, if I'm not mistaken. I have to find that he said that with the Beis Yosef wrote the Beis Yosef, his kavana in writing the Shulchan Aruch. The simple pshat is like everybody lost their Messiah. We're all running. We're all on the run. We have to bring it back. But he was writing a book of law for Eretz Yisrael, like legislation, constitution, Shulchan Aruch. That's what the Shulchan Aruch was. So much to learn from this. But all I want to learn today is that this is what we're learning here. The Vayhi'er, Vayhi'boiker is the principle. Bringing it back to where Rav Tzadok takes it, in our own lives. So there's also a darkness before the dawn. And there's also a heder, a void before there is existence. And it has to be used correctly. In other words, the Laila, time of clarity, whether it's a personal clarity, as he says that the bias means our lave. Let me just end what I'm saying here by saying that there's memtes sharm of tuma and memtes sharm of tahara. Like we all know that in Eretz Yisrael, we went to the Memtes Shari Tuma. But in everybody's lave, as the Zohar says, in everybody's heart, there are 49 gates of purity and 49 gates of Tuma. And they're parallel. And the pshat is that the 49 gates of Shari Tahara are pashut. What the pshat is, you don't have to say the pshat. We want to purify ourselves moment after moment. Go to this tower, that tower, next tower. The 49 Shari Tuma is the Heder Lifnei Ha'avaya. It's the Lashon of the Gran Sefer Tznius. So it's within us, it's the void before existence. So meaning that, and that's why to be on the Sanhedrin, you have to learn how to be Matayar Sheretz. You have to. That was part of the course, Sanhedrin course, is to learn how to be Matayar Sheretz. It's not the only thing you have to learn. You also have to learn Shivim Ummah, the Shivim L'Shaynos. One of the reasons is because, we're this Golos. You have to understand Golos. You have to understand Aveirus. You have to understand Yetzer Hara. You have to, which is also Toiv. You have to understand all these negative parts in order to be able to clean off well before clean surface before applying. So that's the whole Memtes Shari Tuma, the Spheres HaOmer, which is such time to be Ola, but Spheres HaOmer, but it's also time of Avelus. Spheres HaOmer. And it's also time where we're extremely careful in Bein Adam L'Chaveroi, in Chesed, and not being mechabed each other. It's a time of reckoning. It's a time of of serious advancement, which requires a positive and a negative. And it all requires a Vayi Erev, Vayi Boker. Okay, enough Giluyim for today. Thank you very much.
Does the Rav come up with a cheshbon of the Holocaust? In terms of
Absolutely.
its edar? And where was that in relationship to the Milan? What was the question?
Where's the Holocaust on the timeline? Come to Shabbat. There's a lot to say about it. No, because there's a lot to say about the Holocaust but look, 1948 comes out, a beginning of an ingathering of Jews. So there's the.
So you're saying that the Havaya,
That was the Hadr Lifnei Havaya.
the Havaya was coming back to Israel.
Clearly, that was the Hadr Lifnei Havaya. Clearly,
Didn't the Gra also have something with the Parshas of Sefer Dvarim?
yeah. Parshas Sefer Devarim, and also same place the Membeis Masos.